So to wrap up today and to sort of review what's been going on over the last 2 days and to share some reflections, we're delighted that Paul Bush, the head of Events Scotland, the director of events at Visit Scotland, is able to join us now. Paul, are you online? Fantastic.
Yes, good afternoon, Ben.
Great to see you again. Good afternoon. So, what can you take away your sort of key takeaways, Paul? What do you think?
Well, I'm just about to get on a plane and go to Florida because obviously it's 17 degrees there and it's about 2 degrees here in Scotland as we speak this afternoon. But first off, a sincere thanks to yourself, Ben, and also to Matthew and all at Cavendish. I think you've done a great job the last 2 days. At times not without its challenges, but that's the world we live in. But, 100 plus speakers. And I have to say, I think we've probably attracted a real high caliber of people. And I think the level of debate has been phenomenal. I've managed to listen to most of the last 2 days, which has been quite a privilege. I guess some highlights for me would be that events will return. We just don't know when and how and what shape they will be in. I think it was interesting listening to Sally yesterday morning about, Dubai in the last month in terms of Ride Dubai and the 100,000 people taking part in a run and some of the measures and mitigations they had to put in place. Sir Craig talking about Tokyo, he seemed pretty confident that Tokyo will happen next year with mitigation. Mm-hmm. But I guess probably for me, the highlight was this morning and seeing those 5 people from Gen Z talk about their experiences, their aspirations and visions for the future. And I have to say, I got a whole new meaning to social media when one of the panel said that they use social media like their mum. So obviously they're looking for advice and inspiration from social media rather than talking to their mum. So I think that's my biggest takeaway of the last 2 days. But, lots and lots of great content. I think people would, if it's available, to go back and have a look at it over the next few weeks and months. But thanks very much on behalf of everyone that's been involved. It's been a real privilege.
Well, thank you, Paul, for your support to you and everyone at Events Scotland, and as well to Glasgow Life to you both for hosting us again and supporting us for another year. And we very much look forward to returning in person to Glasgow. But I think that the digital dimension, the virtual dimension, as you say, has brought a fresh angle to proceedings. And we had 100 speakers, which we may not have accommodated in quite the same way, or had so many parallel streams, or go into so many detail about so many sort of specific topics. We had one room with the cities that were bidding for the 2025 UK Cities of Culture, alongside another room where people are talking about health and safety at mega events, and it's to have the opportunity to do that has been really good. And I totally agree that the Gen Z session was certainly an eye opener, not only in terms of social media, but in terms of their sort of how much they consider sort of values, what brands they choose to associate themselves with, and what I heard them use the word morals. I don't think the word morals has ever been used at a host city conference before, and I would not have expected it to come from the words of a 20-year-old. So that's a lesson for us all, I think.
That was a hugely impressive panel, Ben, and it's something that you and I have spoken about. I think we've done a really good job this year in terms of gender and equality and diversity on the panels. I think it's significantly improved from where we were a few years ago. So well done on that front. But, I've been quite keen that we have young people involved in this conference. If you were looking at those 5 people this morning, if we're going to vest our industry in the hands of those young people, I think we can be very confident that we've been safe hands. Very accomplished, very bright, very measured in their comments. And I think, looking to the future, getting more and more young people involved in our industry is really important. And it's something that certainly from a situation in Scotland, it's something, we've got to do more and more of. We have a great graduate scheme at Visit Scotland, Event Scotland, and that's produced some great talent for the future. But I think getting those young people involved, if you remember, Scotland had the Year of Young People not too many years ago. I think there's some great lessons to learn from people like those that we saw this morning.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to put forward some young people to speak at future host city events or to get involved in any way, then please do let me know. And in fact, more generally, let myself and Adam and the team let us know what you thought of this year's event. Obviously, there will be a usual formal evaluation procedure, and we'll send you questionnaires and what have you. But also informally, just feel to get in touch and share your thoughts about how you think we can develop and what areas we should be continuing to focus on. I mean, we were sort of focusing on pretty immediate concerns more so than ever this year, I think, because of course what's happened, but also on more wide value sort of shifts as well this year, about what's looking ahead into concerns about the environment and you mentioned diversity and inclusion as well, Paul. What do you think is your main focus right now? Is it the sort of the COVID recovery, immediate get the show back on the road things, or are you keeping half an eye on the sort of on the bigger picture sort of values driven agenda as well?
I think there's probably three things, Ben. I think the route map back to recovery is absolutely probably my number one priority. And we had a route map working group this morning, part of our industry advisory group, which is chaired by Johnny Cole Hamilton from the RNA, who's the executive director. So we've got a very experienced person leading that group. And we've been, I think, quite reassured in the last few days that the Scottish Government and Cabinet Secretary are really keen for us to press on with the route map, whatever that looks like. So I think we're moving forward with some cautious optimism that, over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months, we will see some real movement in the industry in Scotland. Obviously, this time next year, we're hosting COP in Glasgow. We've got Euro in the summer, so they're realistic targets for us, along with as ever, a great golf portfolio, and also trying to get the Edinburgh Festivals back up and running, along with events like the Royal Highland Show. So there's some of the immediate priorities. I think we've always got an eye on ensuring that we behave much more morally and ethically. And I thought the Black Lives Matter session yesterday that David Grevenberg ran with Brian and Denzin was equally as important, if not more important, in the world that we now live. And then the session where we had Tanny and Kate and one or two others talking about the equality and diversity was really impressive. And I think there's still a long way to go in sport and culture, probably less so in culture, but more so in sport. I remember Kate talking about her first event in Lausanne where she turned up in a room of 60 people and only 3 of them were women. And she was told this is how we do it in this environment, which I thought was a pretty sad but telling comment of where sport was. I think it's moving slowly, and the IOC have certainly made some great changes there, but we've constantly got to ensure that we get the right balance in terms of gender equity and diversity. But I guess, for those of you who know me, fundamentally, my one priority is to retain Scotland's position as the perfect stage for events. We've got to look to go out and bid and be competitive. So if there's any rights holders listening at this time of the day, I know it's probably late in some countries, we're always open to have discussions about bringing major events to Scotland, and very keen to work with you in a very new world, I think, where collaboration and negotiation are probably watchwords that probably didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes, absolutely. Collaboration, working together, it's perennial themes, and particularly at the moment at these times. We did ask a poll just a few minutes ago. We put on the final poll of the day, and it might be interesting just to highlight the results of this now. What are the biggest opportunities facing the events industry in 2021 and beyond? And the top answer, with 44% of the votes, was showing leadership in sustainability and inclusion, which is interesting, followed by 33% the increased possibilities of technology, and 22% COVID recovery. Now, whether that means that they think that COVID recovery is likely or not is not entirely clear. But it's interesting that the sustainability and inclusion top the list there.
I think all three probably go hand in hand, Ben, because you can't do one without the other. So from my perspective, I think we'll be focusing on all three of those priorities equally.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Paul, for providing the perfect stage for Host City once more. Thanks to you, everyone at Event Scotland and Glasgow Life. And thanks to all of our sponsors, all of our speakers, all 100 of them, and all of our audience. And we very much look forward to returning to Glasgow after COP26. That seems like a realistic target this time next year.
Absolutely.
Something to aim for. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Paul.